Hi, it's Bumble. Welcome back to my channel. So I just want to say before I start, you know how in the previous Descendants video I was like, oh, why does it say that it's like 2.5 hours for Descendants 2? That sounds pretty crazy. Well, it turns out that's an error on Hulu. I should have picked up on it too because when you're on Hulu and it's like right before you click on a movie, but you're like hovering on it. It also says the runtime. It said the runtime was like 2 hours or something. And then when you actually click on the movie, the runtime suddenly says for that specific screen 2.5 hours. So that honestly is like an error on that part. Because then once I started the movie and I got to actually see what the runtime was, yeah, it is like 2 hours. But it was kind of funny to me. I'm like, I just like fully believed that. I'm like, okay, yeah, this must be like a Disney Channel original musical masterpiece or whatever if this is supposed to be 2 hours. I mean, it is a good movie. I would not say it's like my favorites of the... I feel like at some point I might have to do like a Disney Channel... that would be fun. Disney Channel original movie tier list. The thing that's hard with that is there are so many. I would probably not want to watch them all because it is definitely a scale when I say if some are better than others, for sure. Even when I was just going through ones that were from like the super early 2000s, late 90s, that was like a rabbit hole in itself, and they're like still making these. So I probably wouldn't do a tier list of that, but that could be fun. I don't know. I'd have to have like full-on access to like Disney Plus for like a long while if I ever did that. Anyway, comparing this with the first movie, I think I definitely liked this one better. I mean, I get why the first movie is the way it is because, you know, you got to start it simple of like, okay, here's at least 4 of like the villain's kids and stuff, not to have like too many at once. And it's just about them going to Oridon, which I finally remembered what the name of the kingdom was, but I think it's also the name of the school as well. I wasn't really sure. And you know, them learning like, hey, we actually want to be good, and getting to do like fun kid stuff. So I get that's why it's the way it is. And with the way this one was, I'm hoping the sequels get kind of more like crazier and crazier, honestly, but not to the point where it ends up just being a mess, you know. But this one's cool because it's like you get to meet not just more of like the villains' kids, but like the heroes' kids too. Because like, I think one of my new favorite characters is Mulan. She has a daughter. Her name's Lonnie. She actually does seem like kind of similar to her mom, even going through a little bit of like similar struggles too, where her thing is like she's kind of trying to prove herself and to be accepted because she's on like the school's, I think it's like fencing team or something, and they don't want to let her, like one of the people on the team doesn't want to let her in because the rules are like, oh, it's a captain and 8 guys, and because Lonnie's a girl or whatever. And she even mentions like, hey, my mom had to kind of go through this too, except, you know, at a larger scale because, you know, there was a war. But there is like a whole rescue mission. We have to go to the Isles that Lonnie does get to be a part of, and she does actually get to fight people, but she's like a really fun character. I'm trying to think who else. I feel like there's probably other like heroes, kids characters I'm kind of not remembering right now, because this movie is actually more focused on the Isles. That's what I really liked about it. Is it like mostly takes place there because it is like a cool location. I really like the design of it and everything, and that there's all of these businesses. You kind of get to see more of that belong to the villains, and their kids are the ones that are kind of like also having to work there. Like Ursula has a fish and chips place that her daughter, the movie's villain, Uma gets. Oh yeah, I really like Uma as a character. I'll have to talk about her too. And then you get to see that there's also kids on the Isle that are like the kids or grandkids of the villains, but they themselves are not evil. Like there's a new character, another one I really liked. Her name's Dizzy. You know what, and I do like that they have it where she's specifically Lady Tremaine's granddaughter instead of daughter. Like with everyone else, it's like their sons and daughters. But then it wouldn't really make sense for like Lady Tremaine because she already had like 2. I'm assuming that the Cinderella and her sisters were like teens in the Cinderella movies, maybe like young adults. It's always kind of hard for me to tell with the older movies, but you know, she already had like 2 older daughters in the original Cinderella and stuff, so it would make sense that Dizzy would be her granddaughter. I do like that Dizzy's actually someone that's like kind of middle school age too, and her having this like younger sister thing with like Evie was really cute, honestly. But like Dizzy's someone who actually gets kind of put in almost like a Cinderella role, in a sense of like she's having to like clean up the hair dye shop all day and wants to, and like dreams of going to Oregon. That is something that's kind of interesting with the kids and grandkids in these movies, where I do like that they're not a lot like their parents, but some of them do kind of actually, like the villain kids remind me of like some of the Disney princesses a little, because like Dizzy kind of reminded me of of Cinderella, like I said. But then I mentioned in the last video that Evie really reminds me of like Snow White. Not completely, she has like a little bit more sass and everything, but I do think that's kind of cool. Or some of the characters are like completely different from their parents, even with like the heroes' kids. Like I still find it really funny that Cinderella's son is named Chad, and he's actually kind of a huge jerk, even though, you know, he's like prince and somehow like next in line to be king if anything happens to Ben. He's actually treated as like the comic relief character, one of the comic relief characters in this movie. I honestly feel like he should have gotten suspended or something within this school, because they have, I guess, like 3D printers in this world, or in Oregon or whatever, and he 3D prints a key to Carlos and Jay's room and just kind of goes in there whenever he wants, even though they don't want him to. They actually have to like get him to stop doing that at the end. But that's like such a like invasion of privacy, and I feel like he should totally get suspended for that. Yeah. But yeah, you get to see just kind of more of all of the characters. Everyone kind of gets screen time, which is cool. But also that it takes place in the Isles. A lot of the new like villain kids they introduce are great. I'm glad they got rid of Audrey. I don't know if she ends up coming back though. They have it where it's like, oh yeah, she's on vacation or whatever for the entire movie. But I feel like her character wasn't really necessary anymore anyway, because her whole thing in the first one is like being Ben's girlfriend, but like now Ben is dating Mal. So oh wait, another thing I wanted to say about Dizzy, I didn't it's mentioned like later into the movie. Like I said, she's like specifically Drizella's daughter. I should have noticed that because of the similar name thing, but I feel like it would have actually made more sense if she was the other, I don't remember her name, the other stepdaughter's, you know, daughter, because I remember there's like a Cinderella movie, or I don't know if it was like a spin-off one, where there's like an entire storyline where one of the stepdaughters, Lady Tremaine's daughters, ends up falling in love. I think it's with the Baker character. It was a really sweet story. I wish I remembered which Cinderella movie it was, because I know there's like 3 of them, and there's like a spin-off one where it's a bunch of mini stories, and that was like a really sweet storyline. But they have it in like I know these movies don't really follow the Disney canon that well, but they already have it where like one of the stepdaughters does end up like falling in love, and like Dizzy or whatever is like, yeah, she grew up on the Isle and works for her grandmother, and her grandmother's still evil, but like Dizzy isn't evil or anything. She's like a nice girl. So I feel like that would have made sense of like, you know, one of the stepdaughters already like fell in love with someone anyway, so you know she could like have a kid. It would follow everything, but also like if her mom's nice and stuff, you know, or ends up becoming nicer, like that would make sense for like, you know, Dizzy's upbringing and everything. Yeah, that was just something that kind of bugged me, but it also makes me curious, even like for some of the other movies too, because I mentioned Chad like being Cinderella's son, and I think not completely sure on it, but one of the characters in the Alice in Wonderland spin-offs, which I did see at least the first of those, is on Hulu, so I'm gonna have to watch that after Descendants 3. But I think is supposed to be like Cinderella's daughter, so I'm like, where are all of these other like kids coming from and stuff? But I guess we'll see. Anyway, let me actually go into my notes. But since I kind of talked about some of the characters a little bit, I'm gonna like skip around with my notes. And I'm kind of lucky the weather's okay right now, because I don't have a time limit on how much I can talk, so I can take my time. In terms of the songs, I do like that the style of a lot of the songs do kind of match how it is for like a lot of the villain kids and stuff, where it's kind of like dubstep sounding a little bit. I might not even be thinking of the right genre, but that's kind of what's coming to mind. Sounding even like a little bit techno, which fits with the whole like villain aesthetic, whatever. So we get like more songs in that style because like the movie takes place in the Isles and focuses more on like the villain kids. But at the same time, I think I do actually like a lot of the songs from the first movie better. Maybe because it also felt like there was more variety and everything. But there was a couple of songs in this I actually really did like. So yeah, I'll talk about that, because this one like straight up starts with a musical number, and it's kind of a funny one where it's like, and it turns out to just all be in Mal's head, but you don't know that originally, but it's just the kids singing about the main characters about being evil and whatever, even though with the first movie it's them being good, but it's this whole song where they're being mischievous and like pulling pranks and poison apple shit. And I was watching it and I was thinking like, this is the kind of stuff I expected them to do in the first movie. Like I fully expected that with the first one, of like they would take a while to adjust and they'd like try being mean and then would end up slowly turning nice, which I feel like could have been more interesting. But no, it's that I think it does kind of make sense though, like they're so overwhelmed, especially after seeing like what the Isle is like and everything, of they have all these new opportunities in Oregon and stuff, so I get why it's like, and it's not like they were like evil to begin with, but like the whole staging of that song just reminded me even more of High School Musical. Totally felt, not like the song itself, because it's not really in the style of like High School Musical, it is kind of a little bit, but like the way it's constantly changing scenes throughout the song and just like the whole look of it absolutely felt like something out of High School Musical. I mean, it's still the same director and everything. What else? Most of the movie, Mal has blonde hair. There's like a story reason for it, where it's like she's trying to fit in as, she's dating the king of the kingdom and everything, so she's trying to like fit in, which I guess includes having the purple hair. I was bummed about, she does look good as a blonde. To be fair, I'm sure Dove Cameron can probably pull off like any hair color, honestly, and I'm so used to seeing her as a blonde in other stuff anyway. I don't know if she's like an actual like natural blonde, but then it also felt weird where I'm like, oh, this doesn't really feel like Mal anymore. But she's like that for most of the movie. It does look good on her. I do like that her hair's blonde, but like she does have at least a little bit of the purple at the ends, and it's kind of more of like a lavender purple. It actually looked really cool. But she does end up getting like a bunch of hairstyle changes throughout the movie. Like when she ends up back in the Isle, she has the hair that's on the poster. I'm not really a huge fan of the bangs. Like the bangs themselves are cute, but I feel like it doesn't really look as good on her face, and her hair is like a different color of purple. I like it. I feel like it goes with her outfit, but I do kind of liked the darker purple a little bit more in general. I saw that on the poster for the third movie, so that's cool. And then she ends up with like curly purple hair at like the end, because it's like a fancy scene and stuff. I feel like that kind of looked best, honestly. I just think seeing Mal with like the bangs and completely straight hair just feels kind of off. But yeah, it was weird seeing her not just as a blonde, but she also starts dressing in like pastels and everything, because she's trying to keep up like a certain like princessy image and whatever. But it felt kind of weird because the rest of her friend group dresses like exactly the same as they did in the first movie. Oh yeah, I do like that you get to see Maleficent a little bit. Sadly, not in the human form. She's still stuck as a lizard throughout this whole movie. I'm kind of curious if they're gonna just keep her as the lizard for like the rest of the series, or if like eventually she'd, you know, I miss her being played by Kristen Chenoweth, so I'm like, please restore her back to normal. But they have the wrong colored lizard, and it kind of did throw me off. She was, I think, like black or purple or something in the end of the first one, and they have her just as like a generic green lizard. I mean, she isn't in the movie very much. They just kind of show her a little bit of like, oh yeah, she's still a lizard, and she's kind of like Mal's pet now or whatever. But I mean, she's not really important to the plot of this movie anyway. I mean, the movie is about Mal, but it's like Mal, you know, wanting to be herself and having kind of like identity issues of feeling like a fake in the kingdom. And it's also about like Uma and, you know, the treatment of the kids in the Isle and stuff. But they also, I do like that they keep some of the magic in. I mean, like literal magic where Mal's like still doing spells from the spell book, but it's in a way where it's like she's trying to pretend to be someone she's not, and she does end up getting rid of the spell book at the end of the movie, which I was a bit bummed because like not many characters get to do magic in this series anyway, which does kind of suck because like, you know, the parents of these kids all had like super magical adventures and stuff, and like no one gets to be magic. I mean, there is definitely some magic stuff at the end of the movie, which is like really cool, honestly. That was one of my favorite parts, even though the CGI looked so bad. But yeah, Mal's like the only character that actually gets to do like anything magic. Like Evie doesn't even have the magic mirror in this one. Jane, oh yeah, I wanted to talk about Jane a little bit. I'm glad they ended up changing her hair. I feel like her hairstyle in this one looks so much better than like because I do like short haircuts. Like I'm someone that has short hair, but I feel like the hairstyle they had for Jane in the first one just did not look good. And I feel like it fits with her character anyway, because she has this whole thing with her mom where it's like Jane wants to kind of like change her look a little bit and be more, in her words, like outwardly pretty, even though she's already like really pretty anyway. She just kind of needed a different hairstyle. But then her having different hair in this, I feel like, look, it's longer and kind of more curled. It kind of looks a little bit like Mal's in the first movie, actually, is probably, you know, kind of showing a little bit more about her character and stuff. I feel like, if anything, this movie kind of reminded me of like some of the Shrek movies. I'm trying to remember if it's like 2 or 3. Or not 3. No. 3 is about like finding a new king. 4 is the one where Shrek gets tired of his life and reverts everything back to normal. I feel kind of more like that one. Where it's like in this movie, Mal, you know, she's not like the queen or the princess of this kingdom yet. But she's kind of suddenly thrust into the spotlight, and she misses being evil, and it totally reminded me of Shrek 4, which was oh yeah, I wanted to mention, I saw that for the Shrek 4 video, I got like a ton of views on that out of nowhere. I don't know if that means you guys want me to talk more about Shrek, which I wish I did, because last month I rewatched Shrek 1 for the first time in years, and it was so funny, and I don't think I made a video on it, and I regret that because I had so many things to say. And I mean, I could just rewatch Shrek 1 again and talk about it, but it's like I just saw it. At least I don't think I made a video on it. The thing is, like, I record so many videos, but I'm also posting them just, the schedule's kind of all over the place. Sometimes I post them immediately, and sometimes I put it like 2 months like in advance, so I kind of forget sometimes if I record if I've talked about certain movies or not. That's the kind of the real reason I have the whole I have a playlist, you know, in here. You guys can access it too, of all the movie reviews I do, because there's so many of them. But that's like kind of my way to go back and keep track. Do need to update it though, I'm a little behind. Anyway, but yeah, Chad is a character. My next note's about Chad. Yeah, he's he's kind of a loser. He, you know, should be like really suspended from the school of, you know, the whole like, yeah, making copies of a key to someone else's room is not cool, but he's also like kind of sexist and wants to follow the rules and everything. I hope we see less of him in the, well, I know there's at least one more Descendants movie with this cast, or at least with the main characters, and then there's like the Alice in Wonderland themed ones, which I do find that kind of interesting that series specifically gets a spin-off. But I could see it, honestly. What else? Something I was kind of confused about this movie is because they do try to like pair up more of the main characters in this one, at least a little bit, where, you know, Mal's still with Ben and they have some relationship troubles, and Carlos's thing in this movie, but it doesn't get like a ton of screen time, is he's trying to ask out Jay to this like coronation dance thing. I don't really remember what they call it exactly. It might just be a coronation, not for Ben, but it's for like Mal. And he does get to ask out Jane at the end of the movie, which is really sweet, but she kind of sees him as like friends for most of it. And then Jay, I feel like Jay's the character out of the four main characters that gets like the least amount of like character development or screen time. Like, he's a cool character and stuff, but I kind of wish he had like his own things going on that we get to see, where it's like he's like a flirt and whatever, and he isn't dating anyone. But they do seem to set him up with Lonnie maybe at like the very end and during like the credits and stuff. I feel like they would be a really cool couple, honestly. But I kind of wish his character was just in this movie given more things to do. And then Evie, I do like with Evie, her whole thing in the first movie is she wants to date a prince, and then she ends up becoming friends with Doug. That's the thing I'm confused about. I wasn't sure if they were dating, because there does seem to be some kind of like romantic tension there a little bit, or at the very least they're like friends from the start in this one, which is really nice. But I mean, she does like towards the end of the movie kiss him, and you do get to see them, and there's this whole thing where he thinks that she was gone for so long because she was like in a relationship, and he's like, oh, are you dating someone, are you dating Happy's son or whatever, and she's like, no, and they are seen at like the dance together, so I'm assuming they're already dating. Because you don't get a scene of them like a romantic confession or either of them like asking to go to the dance together or anything. But if they are dating, I do think that's kind of sweet. That is something I kind of like with romantic stuff in movies, where it's like characters, they're never like specifically said to be dating, but you can kind of just tell. But I'm guessing, I don't know, but I do always kind of like that, so I'm hoping so. I do think they're kind of cool together, but at the same time, I feel like just I was gonna say just a little bit, I kind of do ship Mel and Evie. I feel like there's not enough there, and they are like supposed to be best friends and everything, and their friendship is really sweet, but I could see that as well, honestly. Especially because they do get an entire duet in this movie. I mean, it's a duet about how they're going to be like friends forever and stuff, so it's not really like, there's not really like romantic vibes to it, but I just keep thinking specifically of this one scene when Evie's telling Ben like, hey, Mal has gone back to the Isles, and Ben, I mean, he's worried, but he doesn't seem that worried about Mal. But then Evie looks like she's gonna like burst into tears at any second and is like so concerned about Mal. I'm like, but you do get more like friendship scenes with them and stuff, and at some point I'll get to talk about their song. They do have something in this I don't like, where they have a talking animal character. I know that's in a lot of Disney movies anyway, but in this one, it's just because Carlos has a dog, and the dog ends up eating something that allows it to talk. And thankfully, the dog, I think the dog's name is Dude, doesn't have a ton of screen time, but it's in a way where it's like, he just comes off as like annoying talking animal sidekick. He's not like actually funny. He doesn't really get anything to do. Because there are like, you know, talking animal, or even ones that don't talk, of animal sidekicks in Disney movies I am cool with. Like Mushu's a cool one, for example. he's a cool character. Actually seems like he's like friends with Mulan and is like really funny. And then Rapunzel has, well, I mean, she does have Pascal, but there's also the horse, even though that's not like one of her companions, and neither of them talk, but they're still like cool characters anyway, you know. Or even ones that aren't animals. Like, I actually do really like Olaf. He comes off as kind of charming in a way. But yeah, no, dude is just feels like an annoying sidekick character, but he doesn't have much screen time, so it's not too bad. And then you get to see some more of like the villain kids and stuff. There's like a whole kind of like pirate themed area on the Isles. I loved the design of that. It was really cool. And then wait, I feel like I'm gonna get her name wrong. 1 second. Okay, yeah, China Anne McClain. I did remember her name, but I thought I was gonna mess up her last name or middle name, because I've only ever heard her referred to as her full name. She plays the movie's villain, Uma, which I did know about ahead of time, plus she's on the poster and everything. It was just crazy seeing her, because like I used to watch her on Ant Farm. She played the main character. I don't remember what her character's name was, but I used to watch that all the time when that show came out. I don't remember what year it was from, but I know it was like early 2000s. That was like one of the shows I grew up with and stuff. And I haven't seen her in anything since. And she's like a bit older here. Like everyone, I mean, I know that actors aren't literally teenagers. I'm assuming they're at least in their 20s. Like if I had to guess, maybe like late 20s, early no, maybe. I mean, Carlos does look a bit younger. I don't know. I'm assuming they're at least in like their 20s or something. There's no way any of these people are teenagers. I doubt it. But yeah, I haven't seen her, you know, in Ant Farm. She was like a lot younger and stuff. So that was kind of cool being able to see her. I kind of want to see what else she's in. But she does a great job as Uma, honestly, because Uma, I do like her aesthetic and everything too, where she's Ursula's daughter, but she has like a pirate aesthetic and she leads like a group of pirates, and having it be pirate themed is cool because like that opens the door to other stuff, because like Hook's son, Harry, who's also a character I really liked, gets to be part of that pirate group. And then they have Gaston's son, I don't remember what his name is, where he's like a little similar to his dad, where he's actually just kind of dumb, but he's like a nice comic relief character. I mean nice as in like being nice, not, you know, he doesn't really get like much to do or anything, but he's like kind of just there. But both Harry and Uma are both cool characters. I mean, Harry's kind of more of like a lackey, really, but he does get screen time. I like that he kind of just flirts with every single person in this movie. It's kind of funny. But yeah, both of them are cool, but Uma I liked as a character, and I feel like she has some good points too, because it's like she has like a lot of things going on where she's like jealous of Mal, because Mal like didn't let her join her crew when they were like kids and stuff, but also you know, Mal was kind of like in charge of everything with the Isle, and Uma kind of wants to like take her turf and stuff. But then you also get to see a lot of something I really liked with the movie is Uma's interactions with Ben. She has more of those than she actually does with Mal, which I find really interesting. And it boils down basically to you know, Ben only invited like 4 kids onto Oradon, and then didn't invite any of the other kids from the Isle, even after like, you know, because there's like a 6-month gap between this movie and the first one, and it's like even after, you know, Mal and her friends ended up as like good guys, Ben never was like, okay, maybe we could try this with like some of the other kids. He does mention, to be fair, that was like his original plan of like to eventually invite more, and he gets so caught up with like becoming king, he kind of just forgets about that. But I feel like, yeah, Uma does have a good point of you know, more kids should be invited and stuff, but also something I'm surprised they didn't really try to do anything with at the end. Like, I know they can't lift the barrier because, you know, there's actual evil villains there and people still trying to take over Oridon, the kingdom and stuff. Like, I get that. But they never talk about like trying to improve the Isles, because there is like a very big gap in terms of, because like Oridon, like the kingdom itself, I mean, I guess the whole thing's the kingdom, that does include the Isles. I guess I should say like the good guy side of it or whatever, you know, like all of the kids dress really preppy, they get to go to school, they have all this like tech, they obviously have money because they can afford like 3D printers for all the students, and they have like the kings and queens and everybody in charge, you know, like they're doing pretty good. But then all of the kids in the Isle, it's like the businesses don't seem to be doing great, and it's kind of has the vibe of like the bad side of town, you know. But Ben or his parents, or no one really talks about like, hey, maybe, you know, we should try to improve it a little bit and see if we can help the community, because Ben even says like, oh yeah, they're part of Oridon too, they're part of my kingdom, like I'm responsible for them and everything. But yeah, the fact that, I mean, I am glad they're focused on like, hey, maybe we should get more kids to try to like become good and to come on our side or whatever, but they never talk about improving the Isles, especially because like you hear Evie and some of the other characters talk about like on the Isle, and you get to see it too, like a lot of the kids steal, you know, they dress in like kind of rags and stuff, and the characters talk about like, we did what we needed to in the Isles to survive. So I feel like if, you know, the Isles, I mean, yeah, a lot of those kids are evil because that's like literally how they were raised by their parents and stuff. But like if that side of Oridon got kind of spiffed up a bit, you know, then they wouldn't have to steal, and maybe they wouldn't like choose to be evil, you know. I feel like there's some commentary there the movie like could have gone into and it doesn't. But or it kind of touches on like just a little bit. Anyway, we don't actually get to see, that is something that's kind of a bummer. I was hoping we'd get to see more of like the villain parents. Like we get to see the parents for like the four main characters, but like we don't see Hook. We get to see one of Ursula's tentacles, but that's about it. We get to hear her at one point. We don't get to see Lady Tremaine. That's kind of a bummer because I did like the designs. Even though they are similar to like their animated counterparts, the parent villains and stuff, they did still look like at least a little bit different, and that was cool, honestly. Plus it's like you get to see like older versions of these characters now they're old enough to be parents, so I wish we could have seen that. We just get to see the kids. Oh yeah, and then the barrier ends up back up in this movie. I just assumed it was down, but you do get to see another scene of like people going through the barrier and everything. Let me see. I have to kind of skip through my notes a little bit. Oh yeah, you get a song. I think actually out of everyone, like Mal gets kind of the most songs, but Evie has definitely, it gets stepped up a bit for her, where she gets, not like she's the only one singing, but she gets to be kind of the leader in a lot of, or like the main vocalist in a lot of the songs, which is pretty cool. Right, she gets one with Carlos and Jay where they sing, I think it's called like Chillin' Like a Villain or something, and that's the thing that's hard for me. Like I get why the songs and the lyrics are like the way they are and stuff, and I know it's a Disney Channel original movie, but that's the thing that's hard for me, where it's like I feel like the actors do sing well, though sometimes it does feel a little bit like it's auto-tune or something, or that could just be like how the songs kind of sound, where it's like a lot of the songs are catchy and stuff, but at the same time it's like the lyrics are so like even just the phrase "chillin' like a villain" sounds kind of like a little cringy to me. So that's what makes it hard for me with the songs, where it's like lyrically I don't like, and I know I just had that thing I said about like, yeah, it's a Disney Channel original movie, but even some of the other ones, like thinking about like High School Musical or whatever, because that's like the easiest comparison I can give to Descendants, like musically and everything. It does have like a very like High School Musical vibe, you know, but like the songs just kind of feel like songs and lyrically they feel better. So but at the same time, that song "Chillin' Like a Villain," the vocals are good and the song is actually really catchy. Like, if it had different lyrics, it does have a vibe to something I would like hear on the radio during summer. Totally. Or like Mal and Evie, like I mentioned, they have a friendship song, which even includes like a little friendship flashback montage. That was cute. But it's a song about how they'll be like friends forever, and it actually sounded really good, and it helps that like both of the actresses can sing and stuff, because Sophia Carson, she plays Evie, and I actually, after I finished the song, and plus I just really like the way she plays Evie, honestly. I was looking on Letterboxd and I'm like, what else is she in? And I'm really bummed that, like, besides the Descendants, like, she's not in, like, I was kind of guessing, like, is she in like musicals or something? Because sometimes they do that for these kind of movies where they get people that are actually in like musical theater stuff. But she's not. I kind of assumed she would have been in at least one, but no. But it does seem like she's in regular movies where they do sing. Like, there's one that's called Feel the Beat, which I feel like I'm gonna have to check out now. She's in one of the, I forgot there's like a My Little Pony reboot or something. So she's in stuff where she gets to sing, but it's like specifically in movies. Okay, I just found out there's a animated Descendants movie. Damn, am I gonna have to watch this too? Oh wait, no, it's not. Apparently it's bad. Cool, good to know. I'm gonna skip that one. I guess that's one apparently where Mal like actually gets married. But that song was good. That's like the one song I'm like, okay, I might actually have to add this to my Disney playlist or whatever. But yeah, that, I don't know what the name of that song was, but that one was like easily my favorite. I do find it funny, there's like a whole, what really ends up setting up the plot isn't just like Mal running off to the Isles and not wanting to come back, but it's that Ben gets kidnapped by the villain and they have to go rescue him. But it's funny, it's in a way where it's like, you know, Ben obviously doesn't fit in and everyone kind of figures out who he is immediately. But, well, it's one character figures him out, and it's like in a part of the movie that's kind of funny, and then he tells everybody else. But it's like pretty obvious Ben doesn't belong, and the characters take their eyes off of Ben for like 5 seconds and he's kidnapped and they have to go through all this shit to get him back. And I was worried about the plot because then it's set up as like, okay, Mal has to go steal the fairy godmother wand for a villain again, but they end up thankfully not actually having to really steal it, and it kind of ends up being about other stuff. It's more about like them having to rescue Ben. But I like that some of the other characters, like Lonnie, get to go along as well. I think she's actually the only, she's kind of like the fifth member in the team, basically, in this one. And then what's really cool is when they do go to rescue Ben, they end up having to fight pirates. And it's not just that there's a sword fight. Like, I expected something like a sword fight between, like, Mal and Uma. But every character gets a sword fight with pirates, and that was awesome, and I definitely need more stuff like that through these movies. But at the same time, I just really like sword fights in movies. And then they end up rescuing Ben, but I do like that he has a scene where he gets to talk with Uma and actually sympathizes with her, realizing, like, you know, why she's angry, and the state, he gets to actually see the Isles for himself, which I'm surprised it doesn't happen sooner. I mean, I get it. I get why Mal's friends like want to keep Ben off the Isles, you know, because it's like an actually dangerous place. But at the same time, he is king, so I feel like he should have to, you know, it's part of the kingdom too. He should have to see what it's like and be like, oh, you know, we got to do something with that. But yeah, I like that he gets scenes with Uma and actually kind of realizes through her of, you know, I need to just step it up as king and everything. And then there's also a scene, it's like after they rescue Ben when they're back in Oridon and everything, and they're at the school, and Mal and Evie are gonna go for their usual little scene where they talk about their feelings and have like a powwow, and Carlos actually calls them out on it and being like, hey, how come you never include like Jay and I, we're your friends too. And they actually all sit and they, you know, they talk about Mal and stuff. But I really like that scene was included, because I was thinking about that a little bit. I mean, I was kind of thinking more of like, you know, Jay and Carlos don't really get a lot of screen time anyway. And there's a lot of focus, and I do like Evie and Mal's friendship and everything. But Carlos and Jay, you don't even really see them together that much either. They're not really friends seem like friends with Mal or Evie. So I'm glad that finally gets addressed. It like took long enough, but I wasn't expecting a scene for it, but I appreciate that it was there. And then they all have a conversation as well of like, because it's a whole thing that like all of them kind of have to learn, not just Mal, of like, you know, we aren't the same as like the kids from Oregon, because they're from the Isles, they grew up there, it's like a part of them even though they don't live there. Like you even see it with like their clothes too, like their styles and everything. It's like very different from like the preppy pastel look of everybody in Oregon. So I'm glad they get to like talk about that. And then Carlos gets to ask out Jane. Like I mentioned, that was like a really sweet scene, because like they're already friends, and I love the way she responds, where she's like, oh yeah, we'd end up getting to date and do all this stuff and whatever. And she already seemed like interested in him anyway. So it's like no surprise that she ends up saying yes. And then her mom finds out at the end of the movie that they're like a couple now, and she's like really supportive of it. It's sweet. And then Lonnie gets made into like the fencing team captain, which I thought was pretty cool. And then I didn't actually check the runtime or anything, but then it seems like it's ending where like everyone's dressed up for Mal's coronation thing and whatever, and I thought, oh okay, it's like probably gonna end here. And then I looked at something happens and I looked at the runtime and I'm like, oh okay, we still have like 20 minutes left. But I didn't think about it, because it seems like it was going in the direction of like, you know, they rescued Ben, Uma's mad about it. I mean, they do show that Mal's spell book gets left behind the island, but I didn't realize it was her spell book. I thought it was something else, so I kind of forgot about it. But they have this thing where like Uma basically pulls like a Little Mermaid, where she has the magic like seashell necklace thing that Ursula has, and she uses it to get like Ben to fall in love with her in order to like take over the island or whatever. But I didn't even realize it was a trick, because they have it where it's like Ben shows up late to the coronation thing, and then Uma's there and she's dressed all pretty and she looks kind of surprised to be there and everything. And then like once the scene kept going and it's revealed like, okay, something isn't right, you know, like it's all an act. But I like fully believed it, because they already had scenes in the movie where it's like Uma and Ben, not that they were like gonna fall in love or anything, like the movie kind of tries to fake here, but like that he sympathized with her and everything. I mean, she does say like, yeah, I'll try to get my own way to the island and whatever someday, I don't really need your help. But it seemed like they both really wanted to help the kingdom and everything. So I thought, oh, that's actually really sweet that he ends up inviting her at least to the dance, and she gets to see what Oregon's like and whatever. Not that I like fully expected her to become good, but I thought that was like a nice gesture, and it like fit with the way their characters seem set up. But yeah, then it's revealed to be, but I kind of wish it was like a real scene of like her actually getting invited and stuff, and it would have been nice for her to get included and stuff. But no, and then she ends up getting cornered, and then it ends up getting really cool actually, where she jumps into the ocean and she ends up in a form kind of like Ursula. I mean, she still has like the human top half and stuff. Oh yeah, that did make, you know, that probably does make sense of like why they didn't have Ursula in this and stuff, like how much they would have had to change her design and everything. I mean, they do change stuff a little bit, because like, isn't Maleficent in the original, hold on, now I have to look that up, 1 second. Nope. Sleeping, yeah, Maleficent, I thought so. She's like green, not like bright green. I mean, some pictures she is, but like in Sleeping Beauty, she's like a really light shade of like green, but then she's not green in this. So I don't know if like because it's like their kids and stuff, the characters, you know, and she doesn't have like the golden eyes and whatever, you know, because their kids are just, they look like humans and stuff. If the parent, the like villain parents have to be like changed around too, because like including Ursula would mean they'd have to have like all the tentacles and everything. But it is revealed, at least with Uma, of like, oh yeah, she does have a human form, because Uma turns into a tentacle form, kind of like her mom at the end of this. Even like grows big too. It's like straight out of The Little Mermaid. It was really cool, which I have some comments about that. But then I realized, oh yeah, Ursula's originally purple. Would she still be like purple in this? But yeah, she gets like an octopus form or whatever. That was really cool. I kind of wish more of the kids were like that, where they would, you know, because like even with the, I mean, a lot of the princes and princes are like human, though. It's usually the villains that are non-humans. But with more of the kids in general, but especially with the villains, that they could do stuff like that to look like a bit more, you know, like their parents in that way. And then it ends up really cool where Mal can apparently shapeshift into a dragon. Not like she still looks like Mal or anything. She turns into like a literal dragon, which is funny because like this is already the second movie, and it's like Maleficent's dragon form, the CGI for that actually looked fine in the first movie, but Mal's dragon form CGI wise looks like shit. And I'm like, how did it get worse? I mean, she does end up saying, like, yeah, like, when she turns back to normal, like, human or whatever, of, like, yeah, I don't know how I did that. But yeah, apparently she can do that, and then she gets to fight Uma. I mean, they don't get to, like, finish their fight, but, like, that was really cool. I want to see more shit like that, like, in the sequels and stuff. But I feel like they do kind of hint with stuff with that with some characters of like Ben. I mean, he can't turn into like the beast form, but I mean his dad isn't in the beast form. He's like human, the curse is broken. But Ben does do this thing every once in a while where he'll like full on animal roar. I was kind of expecting, because he gets involved with like the fight too, kind of. He ends up jumping into the water and whatever. I mean, it wouldn't make sense for him to turn into a beast there because he's like going into the water, but like I fully expected that after seeing Mal turn into a dragon. But she does get to fight Uma a little bit. That was cool. But then it does turn into Ben being like, hey, we can, you know, try to talk it out. And then he actually does convince Uma to stop what she's doing, and she actually swims back to the Isles. I don't know if that means she comes back in the sequels, but I do like that they leave it kind of open-ended, of where Ben's like, hey, you know, you care about the Isles as much as I do, and, you know, trying to take over Auradon isn't the answer or whatever. And she does look like a little bit, like, worried or whatever, a little almost hurt. So I hope she gets to come back, but I hope it's in a way where she's not, like, suddenly good. Maybe having to help the heroes, but like still wanting to be a villain. I could see that, honestly, because I wouldn't want like every villain kid to turn good the same way the main characters did. That's like kind of boring, and that doesn't feel realistic for like the story of the movies anyway. But yeah, then that's pretty much it. I do like that Mal has like an outfit change when she ends back in the human form, where she's in like because she's put in this like blue and gold dress, you know, for the coronation thing originally, because that's like the kingdom's colors and whatever, but I thought it looked so ugly, and then she ends up in this purple dress and it looked really nice on her, and it's like the same colors and sort of style of like the things she usually wears, so that was pretty cool. And then the ending is like a dance party thing, and it's kind of interesting because the ship, it's not like they're on a boat, by the way. It's not like flooded like it's gonna sink, but there's definitely some water in there on the floor, and everyone is dancing, and on one hand it looked really cool. There's enough water where it's like every time they move it splashes, but at the same time I was thinking like, did any of them slip? Did anybody get hurt doing this? Because they're doing some like pretty fast dancing and sliding around and stuff, it actually made me a little concerned for the actors. But like the dancing itself, but especially in the water, looked really cool. That is one thing I like with the movie. Like the vocals so far have been like mostly fine. I mean, not everyone in the series can sing, but a lot of it is good, so that's cool. The songs themselves I'm very mixed on, but like I will say that the choreography for a lot of the dance stuff does look pretty cool, if I'm honest. But yeah, that's pretty much my thoughts on this. It was really good. It makes me kind of curious because like the first movie I thought was okay. It's funny because I've been like reading reviews for some of these and I read reviews for like the first movie where it's like, at least some of the ones on Letterboxd, where it's like everyone loved it, but I can tell it's in a way where it's like probably like childhood nostalgia or whatever. To be fair, the first one is like good though, but like I definitely like the second movie better. It just I mean it would have to be because they'd have to add more like the villain kids and other stuff, but like I really liked Uma as a villain. I hope her, but also Harry as well, get to come back in the sequels. But I like that, you know, Mal goes through this whole like identity crisis, and you get to actually see more of the Isles and more of like the politics of that. I have heard the third movie, I don't really know what it's about, that it isn't as good as the first two. I've actually heard that the movies get worse, including the Alice in Wonderland ones, so I'm like, no, but I'm gonna watch them anyway. But that does make me a little nervous because like this one was so good, but I feel like the third one's probably not gonna be as good. But we'll see. I might actually get to at least finish the third one today, because the second one I got to just watch this morning. I have some like stuff to do and stuff, but the third movie, not that I'm gonna post all these in the same day, I'm just saying in terms of my recordings and stuff. But the third movie I might actually get to watch in the evening, and then I'll have to wait for the Alice in Wonderland ones. I think they're referred to as like the Wonderland ones, but I know the first one of those is called Rise of Red, and that one for sure is on Hulu. It was interesting because like when I clicked on Descendants originally, like yesterday, the first movie, it showed the two, like Descendants 2 and 3 and like the more like this or whatever. But then the Rise of Red movie didn't pop up, so I just assumed, that's why I was saying like, oh, I don't know if it's on Hulu. But then I was clicking on some of the sequels and then it popped up. But yeah, that one for sure I can watch. I'm guessing the other one, which I think is from like this year or last year, the one that I think has to do with like time travel or something, I'm gonna guess it's also on Hulu. I might just have to find it, but we'll see. All right, so yeah, Descendants 3 on the way. I don't know when I'll post it, but you know, within the same week, maybe tomorrow, whatever. All right, bye bye.